In any given movie, the ending can make or break it. If viewers aren't satisfied with the climax of a movie, the whole experience can be soured for them, and that's why it's so important for filmmakers to choose the right one. The filmmaking process will always result in a number of ideas being thrown around with regard to how they end, but only one will make it into the final version. However, sometimes, when you hear about the endings that might have been, you can't help but think that they would have been better than the one we've seen. In this video, we'll look at some prime examples of that, some of which were actually filmed, others that were merely conceived as ideas. Here are 10 alternate endings that would have made the movie better. I Am Legend. 2007's I Am Legend ended with Will Smith's character, Robert Neville, sacrificing his own life and killing a group of Darkseekers in the process in order to allow Anna and Ethan to escape with the cure so that they could take it to a survivor camp in Vermont. However, another ending was filmed that was more satisfying. The alternate ending saw Neville returning the female Darkseeker on which he had been experimenting to the Alpha Darkseeker, who clearly loves her. Neville then comes to realize that the Darkseekers still have feelings, and that, to them, he is a monster, the legend they all fear. He apologizes to the Darkseekers. They go on their separate ways, and he joins Anna and Ethan in heading to the survivor camp. It's far more powerful and poignant than the ending audiences saw in theaters. The Birds. In Alfred Hitchcock's 1963 classic The Birds, in the final shot, the car carrying Melanie, Mitch, Lydia, Kathy, and the lovebirds slowly makes its way through a landscape in which thousands of birds perch ominously, suggesting that they have taken over the town, and by association, the world. There was, however, another idea conceived that would have had a much bigger impact. It would have seen the car driving through the town, which would have been in ruins with dead birds everywhere, cars in flames, and one final attack from the birds. The Golden Gate Bridge would also have been totally covered in birds, which would have been an awesome image. Screenplay writer Evan Hunter said it would have taken a month to film that version, and the cost of creating the Golden Gate Bridge imagery would have been astronomical. Blade. At the end of 1998's Blade, a movie that was great enough to be considered the platform on which the modern superhero genre was built, Blade injects Frost in his Lamagra form with a serum, causing his body to explode. Karen then offers to help Blade cure himself, but he asks her to create a new serum instead. Blade is then seen killing a group of Russian vampires. One of the alternate endings, which was actually filmed, saw Blade refusing Karen's help again, before a figure is seen in the distance. It's Morbius, a villain of both Blades and Spider-Man's from the comics. Having such an iconic villain in the sequel would have improved the franchise as a whole, and undoubtedly left the viewers watching Blade more satisfied with its ending. Blade Runner. The ending to 1982's Blade Runner was infamously quite poor. The voiceover has nothing to do with what's being shown on screen, and Harrison Ford sounds like he's been forced to read his lines at a moment when he felt he had something better to do. The ending attempts to make the fact that Ford's Rick Deckard gets to live forever with his robotic girlfriend Rachel seem like a good thing. A number of alternate endings were filmed, frankly, all of which were better. The best thing about the final cut version, however, is that it removes the voiceover, leaving the ending more open to viewer interpretation. Deckard's robotic lover could essentially malfunction at any moment, and that possibility is far more in keeping with the movie's overall tone. There's also a suggestion that Deckard himself could be a robot, or replicant as they're known in the movie. That is a very intriguing possibility. Orphan. At the end of 2009's chilling Orphan movie, the evil woman child Esther is killed when she fights with her adopted mother, Kate, on an icy lake. After Kate has saved her son Max from the psychopath, Kate kicks Esther in the face despite her pleas to be saved, resulting in her sinking to her death and ending her murderous rampage. In the alternate ending, which was filmed, the action stops after Kate's rescue of Max. Esther runs up to her room, haphazardly applies some makeup, and appears at the top of the stairs, with the house full of police. She calmly introduces herself in her child persona, curtsies, and walks slowly down the stairs. It's creepy as hell, and suggests the possibility of Esther being able to lie her way to freedom and go on another murder spree in a potential sequel. And that's always a good thing for a horror movie. Dawn of the Dead. At the end of George A. Romero's 1978 zombie classic, Dawn of the Dead, two of the movie's main characters, Peter and Francine, escape the zombie hordes by flying away in a partially fueled helicopter to an uncertain future. It at least implied the possibility of a happy ending, but a conceived alternative ending that was never filmed was far bleaker and more in keeping with the movie's tone. According to the original screenplay, Peter and Francine were supposed to kill themselves, Peter by shooting himself, and Francine by placing her head into the rotating helicopter blades, incidentally, and the end credits were to have rolled over a shot of the blades turning until the engine wound down, implying that the pair wouldn't have gotten very far if they attempted to escape. Hannibal. In the final showdown between Clarice Starling and Hannibal Lecter in 2001's Hannibal, Starling handcuffs herself to Lecter, resulting in the cannibal chopping his own hand off in order to escape the FBI agent's clutches, showing that he has some affection toward her. He is then shown on a plane, traveling to an unknown destination, where he feeds a young boy some brain. However, in the alternate ending that was filmed, there was no handcuffing. In fact, Lecter licks Starling's face after he has kissed her, in a very creepy sequence, before he escapes. Following this, instead of cutting straight to the plane, Lecter walks to a van and waves to some people before driving off. There's also some extra footage on the plane, with Lecter talking more to the young boy about talking to strangers. It lacks Lecter's moment of hand-slicing self-sacrifice, but it leaves his relationship with Starling more ambiguous, and that's far more interesting. First Blood. At the end of 1982's First Blood, John Rambo collapses in tears and talks about the things that happened to him in Vietnam and after he returned home from there. He then suffers a post-traumatic stress disorder-triggered breakdown and surrenders to Trotman. He is put into state custody and driven away. The alternate ending that was filmed was even more depressing than that, as it saw Rambo killing himself in front of Trotman by shooting himself in the stomach after having failed to convince Trotman to do it for him. But it was undoubtedly more dramatic and powerful too, and perhaps even more importantly, it would have saved the world from having to watch the movie's far inferior sequels. Dodgeball. At the end of 2004's Dodgeball, a true underdog story, Vince Vaughn's Peter LaFleur is successful against Ben Stiller's White Goodman in the final match of the Dodgeball tournament. However, as far as audiences were aware, Peter has already sold his business to White. But there was more to it. Peter had used White's $100,000 bribe to bet on his own team to win at 50-to-1 odds. He became a millionaire, bought White's company, and fired White. The original ending, however, saw White's team win, with the commentators stating they've come all this way for nothing, absolutely nothing. It would have been sad, but underdogs tend to lose, so it would have been a true underdog story, and weirdly, both brilliant and jarring. 28 Days Later. The original ending to 2002's 28 Days Later isn't bad. It's actually pretty satisfying. But the three alternate endings all see Cillian Murphy's character Jim dying in hospital. This brings the movie full circle, as the movie starts with Jim awakening from a coma in hospital, and that just seems right. And when Danny Boyle says that that's the movie's true ending, you have to agree with the man. Jim survives in the original ending and is seen recovering at a cottage before images of the rage virus-infected people dying of starvation are shown, suggesting happier times are to come. The endings in which Jim dies are far more fitting of the movie as a whole, and the one in which Selena and Hannah leave the hospital as the screen fades to black is the most ominous and undoubtedly the best of the three. Thanks for watching our video of 10 alternative endings that would have made the movie better. Do you agree that these endings would have improved these movies? Which other alternative endings were superior to the ones shown in cinemas? Leave a comment and let us know. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up and check out the rest of our channel. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to CBR for cool vids about movies, action heroes, gaming, comics, and more.